Okay, you have your NFL Week 16 power rankings. So number 10, I have the Baltimore Ravens down 3 spots. They lost to the Browns, and the Ravens without Lamar Jackson just do not look good, especially on offense. Ravens offense have been pretty mediocre throughout the season. Their wide receiving core is not that good, and Lamar Jackson was just masking it. But without Lamar, their offense is just not good. They only put up 3 points versus the Browns and Ravens. Their defense though is still good. Only shut down Nick Chubb. Only allowed 13 points to the Browns, but Ravens offense they have an easy next 3 games or so they should make the playoffs, but they could easily miss it, especially with that terrible offense. Um, they really have to find a way just to score points with Huntley because Lamar Jackson's no longer there. At number 9, I have the LA Chargers back on this list. They had a win over the Titans. It wasn't a great win, but it kept them in the playoff contentions. It was a Justin Herbert. He did not play that well, but he's a clutch quarterback, and he led 2 game-winning drives versus the Dolphins and the Titans, and the Chargers, their defense also has been playing a lot better. Pretty much shut out Tannehill and the Titans offense. Um, Chargers, they're still not great. They still definitely have flaws, but they have the talent to overcome it. Um, I think they're back in the top 10, even though it was not their best game versus the Titans. At number 8, I have the Miami Dolphins up 2 spots. They lost to the Bills, but it was a good game overall for the Dolphins, even though they lost. Um, the weather didn't really affect their offense. Mostert had a great game. Tua didn't have that bad of a game. Their defense, though, is probably keeping them from being one of the elite teams. Defense, they have to get better. They let up a ton of points to Josh Allen. Hopefully, they play a lot better at home. Their offense, though, they adjusted and they did well versus the Bills. They have to run the ball more consistently and stop being so cute in those third and short situations. Their Dolphins are like a step down from those elite teams like the Chiefs and the Bengals, but I definitely still see them as a top 10 team. And number 7, I have the Minnesota Vikings up 1 spot. They did come back versus the Colts, but they really shouldn't have fell in the 33-0 hole in the first place. Their offense, like I said, can be very explosive at times, but they can also be very inconsistent and get shut out like the first half versus the Colts. So hopefully when time comes, they don't have those inconsistencies because you're going to lose against playoff teams. Their defense also has to get much better. And I think that's also, like I said, lastly, preventing them to being in the top 5, despite that 11-3 record. Their defense let up a ton of points to the Colts offense in the first half. They did do a lot better in the second half, but pretty much like their offense is way too inconsistent. And the Vikings, they just have to be more like consistent, pretty much. They have the talent, they're just not getting blowout wins where they should. And number 6, I have the Dallas Cowboys down 3 spots. They lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their offense still did well, but they made way too many mistakes. Like I've always said, Dak Prescott threw a pick, and then Noah Brown had that overtime drop. Their defense, I'm not sure what happened to them. They've been playing great this season, but against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they just melted down. And the Cowboys are definitely still a good team, but there's definitely a few flaws to them, and I still see them as a top 10 team, and they can beat anybody, and they can pretty much lose to anybody. At number 5, I have the Cincinnati Bengals up 1 spot. They're a very hot team right now. They beat the Bucks. They fell in a 17-0 hole early, but they came back. Um, Joe Burrow had another good game. The run game was decent, and their defense, one of the more underrated defenses. And I think they're one of the less talked about teams, but I definitely see them as a top 5 team right now. At number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs down 2 spots. They took the Texans to overtime, and Patrick Mahomes wasn't the problem. He had a very good game versus the Texans. There was too many mistakes. Pacheco had a fumble, and so did Juju, and those are a few mistakes. And our defense really couldn't stop. They did have a fumble on Davis Mills, but overall couldn't really stop the Texans from scoring. And the Chiefs' offense just couldn't get points despite doing well. And Chiefs, these last couple of weeks haven't been the best, but they're still definitely an elite team, and they find ways to win. So I still have them in top 5. Number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers up 2 spots. Pretty much dominated the game against the Seahawks. The game wasn't that close. Their defense was playing another great game. Slowed down Geno Smith and the Seahawks run game. Their offense does enough. Brock Purdy had a good game. Their offensive scheme had a good game. And right now, the San Francisco 49ers are very, very hot, and they have a lot of talent. And even though they have a Brock Purdy at quarterback, the rest of their talent just oversees it. At number two, I have the Buffalo Bills up one spot. Had a win versus the Dolphins. Josh Allen had another great game. Their offense played well. I think there was only like 3 or 4 drives that ended in punts. Their defense still has to get better, like they were in the first half, and they definitely could not stop the Dolphins' run game. But they did stop them at the most critical points, their Dolphins' pass game. And Bills, Josh Allen, we all know about their defense has to get it back a little bit, but it was a good win over the Dolphins. And then the teams that dropped out, you have the Washington Commanders. They lost to the Giants. They really shouldn't have. There's a PI there, but still, um, Washington did well, but they just could not have finished drives, especially in the first half. They're just making too many penalties and mistakes. They have to eliminate that. Their defense still played really well, and I think that's still like the ace of the team. Their defense that played really well, though they should have played better against Saquon. Their offense, though, they can be good at times, but they have to be like actual finish off drives. And number one, I still have the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a pretty game versus the Bears. Jalen Hurts had 2 picks, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns. The defense allowed a couple of Justin Fields long run, but they still got the win, and I still think they're very talented. Jalen Hurts may be hurt and may miss a few weeks, but I feel like the Eagles' talent would be too much. So I still have them in the number one spot. So there you have it, my NFL Week 16 power rankings.